Thank you, Chairman Peters. Glad to join you at the hearing today, and welcome to the witnesses. Look forward to hearing from you. I've enjoyed our conversations we've had by telephone, and it's good to have you here in person, and look forward to having you introduce your family members who are with you. As you all know, I think this agency is absolutely critical to our government, and probably the least known, but one of the most important agencies of government. It's Office of Management and Budget, so the purview is almost boundless. Management of every agency, every department, every program, not direct management, but the oversight of it, and that responsibility would fall on you as the two deputies, should you be confirmed. And then, of course, the budget side, incredibly important. But OMB also looks at every regulation. OMB also looks at every policy. It looks at every statement that comes out of the White House and has to approve it. So it's a huge responsibility, and I'm glad you're willing to step up and take it on. As Deputy Director of the office and then as the Deputy for Management, respectively, it's important that you both have a background in your respective roles, budgeting, management, but also an understanding of all those policy issues, regulations, and actions that OMB reviews and coordinates across the agencies. Even more important to me is the ability to work with folks within the administration, the agencies, and with Congress. And Chairman Peters just talked about the COVID-19 package. I hope we don't see a repeat of that, because that's not working with Congress. It's working with one side of Congress. And both of you have backgrounds where you have worked on a bipartisan basis. Ms. Young, in particular, on the Appropriations Committee, that's how you operate. And I've spoken to some of the cardinals, you know, who were previously in charge, who were Republicans, who worked with you, and some who, as ranking members, worked with you. And they said you did work with them. And that's very important. On COVID, you know, five times we've done that in the last year. And unfortunately, this latest time, the administration chose to go a different route. I think it's a mistake for the country. I certainly think it's a mistake for trying to build some bipartisanship going forward on other issues that OMB will be very involved with, like infrastructure. So I hope you are going to be a voice within the administration to say that you're willing and able to work with both sides and find that middle ground and get things done. On the crises that we face, COVID-19 is at the top of the list, but it has spawned other crises, including an epidemic crisis underneath the pandemic. With regard to substance abuse and overdoses, we now believe we are in a year where we're going to have the highest overdose death rate in the history of our country, which is such a heartbreaking reality because we were making good progress until the pandemic. We also know that our children's education and development has been set back thanks to this coronavirus pandemic. And that's a long-term issue we've got to address. I spoke to some folks this week who tell me that you know, they're educators, that they believe the students that they're in charge of teaching and developing have lost a year. That's a big deal. And of course, there are emotional scars that go along with that. There's a mental health crisis in addition to the opioid and drug addiction crisis more generally. So higher suicide rates along with the record number of overdose deaths. So there's lots to do post-COVID-19 to sort of knit this society back together. And finally, I will say I hope you will be willing to focus on fraud in these programs that we have set up. It, to me, is unbelievable we're not doing more, particularly to address the fraud in the unemployment insurance system, as we pump hundreds of billions of dollars of federal money in and we find out that there are organized, international in some cases, you know, foreign criminal organizations that are taking advantage of hard-earned taxpayer money to steal from our taxpayers and to fraudulently take federal funds. But it's true with a lot of these programs. We've heard with regard to every one of these big programs that there is significant fraud. That will be something that we look forward to talking to you about today and getting you engaged with should you be confirmed. I will say part of that is that there are innocent Americans out there, including our constituents, Chairman Peters and myself, who are bearing the brunt of this fraud because people are stealing their identity and then getting checks illegally, and then the government's coming back on the constituents who knew nothing about it. And we're hopeful that we can pass an amendment to the COVID bill to address that in the next 24 hours. But it's even worse than it might appear because of its impact on so many people. The cyber attacks we've seen recently, this massive SolarWinds attack, is unprecedented. We look forward to your comments on that. Cybersecurity is one of the 5 high-risk areas that's actually gotten worse since 2019 based on a hearing we had in this room 2 days ago. So clearly we're moving in the wrong direction in terms of securing our federal networks. I know Chairman Peters and I want to work closely with OMB in that regard because OMB has a huge role to play, particularly with regard to the agencies and making sure they're meeting their requirements. So I'm hopeful we can work together to address these challenges, to rebuild the economy as we come out of COVID-19, which is, likely to happen despite all the issues I talked about. The economy is beginning to grow already, and I think that's the good news, and I think it will continue as the vaccines become more widely available in ways that a lot of pent-up demand will help us to move forward. If confirmed, the two of you will play an important part in all of these efforts. And so, Ms. Young and Mr. Miller, I look forward to hearing your thoughts today on these important issues and other critical ones that would face OMB should you be confirmed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.